I remember the first time I killed a man, not the particulars of his face or the sound he made as he died. Those details blur across 10,000 years of slaughter. What I remember is how easy it felt, how natural. The weight of the spear in my hands, the perfect calculation of force required, the precise spot to strike. I was bred for this singular purpose. Every cell, every fiber, every thought aligned to one goal: protection, service, obedience. These are the pillars upon which my existence stands. My name is Decimus Valen, shield captain of the Adeptus Custodes, guardian of the Emperor of mankind. This is not a tale of glory, this is my confession. The corridors of the inner palace are silent, save for the rhythmic clank of my auramite greaves against marble. Gold reflects gold in every polished surface. We are surrounded by glory while we stand in the shadow of extinction. 10 millennia I have walked these halls, 10 millennia of the same routines, the same corridors, the same duty. Perfection does not require variation. Perfection requires constancy. My vigil begins as it always does. 16 hours of absolute stillness before the sealed doors of the Sanctum Imperialis. Beyond those doors sits what remains of the Master of mankind, withered upon his golden throne. His physical form decays while his mind wages an eternal war across dimensions we cannot comprehend. And I stand guard, hour after hour, day after day, century after century. There is no fatigue in my muscles. They were designed to never tire. There is no lapse in my attention. My mind was crafted to remain eternally vigilant. There is no doubt in my thoughts. Doubt was purged from my being before I took my first breath. I am a perfect sentinel. That is my horror. You cannot understand what it means to be incapable of failure, to be denied the luxury of weakness. Each custodian is a masterwork, handcrafted using techniques lost to time. We are not mass-produced like the Astartes. We are not simple in warriors. We are living weapons, philosophical ideals given flesh. When the Emperor created us, he did not merely enhance our bodies, he remade our souls. The pilgrims who glimpse us as they shuffle through the outer palace see only the gleaming armor, the perfect physique, the superhuman grace. They whisper prayers as we pass. They believe we are blessed. They do not see the chains that bind us. Golden chains, forged from duty and genetic manipulation, locked in place by an oath 10,000 years old, binding us to a corpse who refuses to die. I watch a procession of petitioners approaching the Eternity Gate. High Lords, Imperial Governors, Chapter Masters, the elite of the Imperium, reduced to trembling supplicants as they approach the heart of imperial power. They do not come before the Emperor himself, of course. Few are granted that privilege. Instead, they will present their cases to his representatives, hoping their pleas reach his divine consciousness. The weight of their anxiety perfumes the air, the scent of fear, ambition, reverence, and dread. Among them walks a space marine, his armor the deep green of the Dark Angels. Even he, a transhuman warrior, seems diminished in these halls. The Astartes are weapons, we Custodes are companions. That distinction was meaningful once, when the Emperor still walked among men. Now it is merely another ornate lie we tell ourselves to justify our existence. The Dark Angel glances at me as he passes. I see the moment of recognition in his eyes, followed by something rarely seen in the face of an Astartes: awe. Even to the Space Marines we are legends, perfect beings, unchanged since the days of the Great Crusade, living relics of a more glorious time. If only he knew the truth. Perfection is a prison. Imagine existing without the possibility of growth, without the capacity to evolve or improve. I was born at the apex of human potential. Every challenge I have faced since then has been surmountable by design. There is no triumph in victory when defeat is impossible. There is no satisfaction in duty when choice has been removed from the equation. There is only the endless golden corridor stretching before me, unchanging, for eternity. The weight of my spear feels suddenly heavy in my hands, though its physical mass has not changed. The Guardian Spear, symbol of my office, a weapon designed to kill anything in creation. In 10,000 years it has never failed me. Or perhaps it is more accurate to say I have never failed it. The distinction becomes meaningless after so long. Sometimes, in the silent hours of my vigil, I contemplate the nature of my existence. We were created to be the Emperor's companions as much as his guardians. We were meant to understand his vision, to be confidants and counselors as well as warriors. But the Emperor has not spoken a word in 10 millennia. What purpose does a companion serve when his master has abandoned conversation? What wisdom can a counselor offer to one who cannot hear? The answer is written in every gleaming panel of my armor. We endure, we maintain our vigil, we stand ready for the day when he will rise again. Faith sustains the common citizens of the Imperium. Duty sustains the Astartes. But we Custodes are sustained by a more terrible force. Certainty. We do not believe the Emperor will return. We know it. It was written into our genetic code, planted in our minds by the hand of the Master of Mankind himself. To doubt would be to defy our very nature. And so I stand, another golden statue among many in the palace corridors, unchanging, unyielding, watching the endless procession of humanity as it passes before me. Each face unique, each life a brief flicker in the darkness. They age and die while I remain. They evolve while I stand still. They dream of glory while I live it and find it hollow. The only time I feel anything resembling peace is in combat, not joy. For joy implies a capacity for happiness that was scoured from my being during my creation. Not satisfaction, for what satisfaction can there be in doing exactly what you were designed to do? No, what I feel in those moments of perfect violence is silence. The silence of absolute focus, the silence of purpose fulfilled. In those brief interludes, the weight of eternity lifts from my shoulders, and I simply am. But those moments are rare now. The palace is the most heavily fortified structure in the galaxy. Few enemies make it past the outer defenses. Fewer still breach the inner sanctums. My spear has tasted blood only 17 times in the last century. 17 brief moments of silence amid 100 years of crushing purpose. I am not telling you this to earn your sympathy. Sympathy implies that things could be otherwise. That there exists a universe where I am free from this golden cage. There does not. I tell you this so that you understand the truth behind the legends. So that when you whisper prayers to the golden guardians of the throne, you recognize the nature of the beings you venerate. We are not gods or angels. We are weapons that think, tools that breathe, perfection without purpose, glory without end, and in that endless glory lies our damnation. I remember the first time I saw the Emperor, not on the battlefield or in the strategic chambers where he planned the conquest of the galaxy. Those memories are clear enough, recorded with perfect fidelity in my transhuman mind. No, I am speaking of the first time I saw him after the heresy, after he was interred upon the golden throne, after he ceased to be a man and became a god in truth, if not in name. Few Custodes are permitted within the throne room itself. Even among the 10,000, only the most trusted are granted this highest of honors. I was called to serve in the 112th year of my life, still young for one of my kind. I remember the weight of that moment as I approached the sealed inner doors. The air grew heavy, charged with unseen energies. The temperature dropped until frost formed on my armor, then rose until that same frost evaporated in clouds of steam. Reality itself protested the wound at its center, the place where the material and immaterial are forced to meet. When the doors parted, I beheld a sight that has haunted me for 10 millennia. The Emperor of Mankind, Master of Humanity, Architect of our species' destiny, reduced to a withered husk upon an ancient mechanism. His flesh, once vital and powerful, had shrunken against his bones. His face, once noble and commanding, had collapsed into a death rictus. Only his mind remained, a psychic inferno that raged against the darkness, holding shut the door through which damnation waited to enter. I felt his awareness then, a sliver of attention turning in my direction. Not recognition, for he had far more pressing concerns than a single custodian, but acknowledgement. In that moment, I understood the true nature of my oath. We do not guard the Emperor. We guard what the Emperor guards. We are but the outer layer of a defense that extends into dimensions we cannot perceive. That knowledge has sustained me through the millennia. When doubt creeps at the edges of my thoughts, when the endless routine threatens to drive me to madness, I remember that moment of clarity. We may appear to be nothing more than glorified sentinels, but our vigilance serves a purpose beyond mortal comprehension. The Emperor does not sleep, he does not rest. For 10,000 years, his mind has waged a war against the ruinous powers, keeping closed the breach that the arch-traitor tore in reality. If his concentration were to falter for even a moment, the forces of chaos would pour through, drowning terror in a tide of madness and corruption. And so he cannot spare the mental energy to lead, to guide, to inspire. He is a prisoner of his own sacrifice. In this, at least, we are alike. Both bound by duty, both imprisoned by necessity. The difference is that he chose his fate. I was created for mine. The sanctity of my thoughts is interrupted by movement at the far end of the hall. A robed figure, hunched and frail, approaches the Eternity Gate. This is unusual. The day's petitioners have already been processed. The night cycle has begun, during which the palace is supposed to fall silent save for the movements of its guardians. I shift my weight imperceptibly, readying myself for action should it be required. As the figure draws closer, I catalogue details with the preternatural speed and accuracy bred into my kind. Female. Elderly. Unarmed. No visible augmentations, no signs of mutation or corruption. Her robes are simple, unadorned. A menial, perhaps, one of the countless servants who maintain the physical structure of the palace, but no menial would dare approach the Eternity Gate unbidden. Halt! I command, my voice echoing in the vast chamber. Identify yourself. The woman stops, her rheumy eyes lifting to my helm. There is no fear in her gaze, no awe, only a deep, abiding weariness that matches my own. I am no one, she replies, her voice surprisingly clear and strong for one of her apparent age. A memory, a reminder, nothing more. My hand tightens on my guardian spear. Riddles and enigmatic statements are the hallmarks of those touched by the warp. State your purpose or be removed, I warn. She smiles, a gentle expression that seems out of place in these grim surroundings. My purpose? The same as yours, Guardian, to serve him, to remember what was and what might have been. I take a step forward, towering over her diminutive form. The Eternity Gate is forbidden to all but those with explicit authorization. Turn back now. I do not seek entry, she says, unperturbed by my implicit threat. I come only to deliver a message. To whom? To you, Decimus Valen, to you who has stood guard for 10,000 years, to you who remembers him as he was, not as the idol he has become. Ice forms in my veins, no one uses my name. I am custodian, or guardian, or at most, shield captain to those who know my rank. My name is a relic of a human past long abandoned, and she speaks it with the familiarity of an old friend. Who are you? I demand, all pretense of calm forgotten. Someone who knew you before, she says cryptically. Before the gold, before the oath, before eternity stretched before you like an endless prison sentence. Impossible, I reply. All who knew me then are dead, dust for millennia. Her smile widens, revealing teeth too perfect for a mortal of her age. Are they? Time is a curious thing in his presence. It stretches, it folds, it loops back upon itself. The implications of her words send a tremor through my mind. Could she be some relic of the Unification Wars? A preserved consciousness from the early Imperium? Or something more sinister, something wearing human guise? Deliver your message and be gone, I order, my patience wearing thin. She reaches into her robe, and my muscles tense, ready to strike if she produces a weapon. But what she withdraws is a small, tarnished medallion. She holds it out to me. He wanted you to have this, she says, to remind you. Against my better judgment, I reach out with my free hand and take the medallion. It is ancient, its surface worn smooth by the passage of countless years, but the symbol etched upon it is still visible, the lightning bolt and wings of the Emperor's personal heraldry as it appeared before the Great Crusade, before the Imperium, when he still walked openly among humanity. Remind me of what? I ask, my voice softer now, touched by a confusion I have not felt in centuries. That before you were perfect, you were human, she replies, and that in the end, when all else is stripped away, that humanity is what he values most. Before I can question her further, a shudder runs through the palace. Distant alarms begin to wail. The woman looks up, her expression darkening. They come, she whispers, earlier than expected. Remember, Decimus. Remember what you fight for. And then she is gone, moving with a speed that belies her elderly appearance, vanishing down a side corridor before I can stop her. I am left holding the medallion, its weight insignificant in my armored hand, yet somehow heavier than my guardian's spear. But there is no time to ponder her words or the strange gift. The alarms grow louder, more insistent. My vox crackles to life, filling my helm with the voice of the tribune. All custodians to battle stations. Security breach in the outer palace. Multiple incursions detected. This is not a drill. I slide the medallion into a compartment of my armor, its presence already forgotten as combat protocols activate in my mind. My body moves automatically, centuries of training and genetic programming taking over. The contemplative guardian vanishes, replaced by the perfect warrior I was created to be. As I stride toward the source of the alarm, I feel the familiar silence descending upon my thoughts. The blessed emptiness of purpose. The clarity of violence imminent. And in that moment, as has happened countless times before, I am free. But even as I march to war, a small voice echoes in the back of my mind. The voice of an old woman with impossible knowledge and a gift from the distant past. Remember what you fight for. The outer palace burns. From my vantage point on the Praetorian overlook, I can see the spreading conflagration, a cancer of flame eating through the peripheral structures. Sirens wail. Emergency containment protocols activate, sealing off sections of the vast complex. In the distance, atmospheric craft circle like carrion birds, their searchlights cutting through the smoke. Report, I command, addressing the squad of custodians who have assembled at my position. They stand resplendent in their auramite plate, guardian spears held at perfect attention, unmoved by the chaos unfolding before us. Multiple breaches along the processional way, replies Navradaran, my second. Initial reports suggest a coordinated attack. The outer defense forces are engaged, but the enemy has penetrated deeper than expected. Composition? I ask. My mind already calculating probabilities, mapping defense strategies. Unknown. Reports are fragmented. Some witnesses describe robed cultists. Others claim to have seen Astartes in corrupted armor. My hand tightens on my spear. Traitor Marines. If true, this is no simple uprising or act of terrorism. This is a calculated strike at the heart of the Imperium. The Sanctum Imperialis? I inquire, though I already know the answer. If the inner sanctum were threatened, every custodian on Terra would know it through the psychic alarm systems woven into our very being. Secure, Navradaran confirms. The attack appears focused on the administrative and ceremonial sections. They have not yet approached the inner defense rings. Then their objective lies elsewhere, I muse. Or this is merely the first phase of a larger operation. I turn to the assembled warriors, my brothers in eternal vigilance. Tiberius, take 3 and secure the Eternity Gate. Nothing approaches without my direct authorization. Custodes, reinforce the halls of devotion. If the enemy seeks to damage imperial morale, the reliquaries would be a prime target. Navradaran, you are with me. The custodians salute, fists against chests, and move with fluid precision to carry out their orders. There is no need for clarification or repetition. We are of one mind in battle, each understanding his role in the greater defense. "Where do we go, Shield Captain?" Navradaran asks as the others depart. I stare out at the burning outer complex, my enhanced vision picking out details invisible to normal humans. Movement among the flames, organized, purposeful, not the panicked fleeing of civilians or the disciplined response of defenders, but something else, something wrong. "We go to the fire," I reply. "We find who leads this attack, and we excise them with extreme prejudice." We descend from the overlook, moving through the palace with the assurance of those who have walked its corridors for millennia. Every passageway, every chamber, every defensive choke point is mapped in our minds with perfect clarity. Where others might become lost in the labyrinthine complexity of the imperial palace, we navigate as effortlessly as lesser men might walk across a room. As we approach the boundary between the inner and outer palace complexes, the signs of battle become more evident. Scorch marks on ancient walls, the distinctive pockmarks of bolter fire, bodies, some in the uniforms of palace security forces, others robed civilians, and others still, twisted things that were once human but have been reshaped by forces best left uncontemplated. I kneel beside one such creature, examining it with clinical detachment. Its flesh has been remolded like wet clay, additional limbs sprouting from its torso, its face split into a vertical maw lined with needle teeth. The reek of the warp clings to it, an invisible miasma that triggers ancient warning systems built into my enhanced senses. "Possession," I state flatly. "The work of the Changer of Ways, if I am not mistaken." Navradaran nods his agreement. "Tzentian cultists, then, but that does not explain reports of traitor Astartes." "Unless they serve the same master," I reply, rising to my full height. "Or this is an alliance of convenience." We continue forward, moving from the clean, well-maintained halls of the inner palace to the more utilitarian spaces of the outer complex. Here, the grandeur gives way to functionality. The soaring ceilings lower, the ornate decorations become sparse, then absent. These are the working spaces of the palace, where countless menials and administrators toil to keep the bureaucracy of the Imperium functioning. The scent of smoke grows stronger, acrid and chemical. Ahead, flickering orange light paints the walls, and the temperature rises noticeably. We are approaching the fire zone. A group of palace security forces comes into view, taking cover behind an overturned ferrocrete barricade. Their uniforms are scorched, their faces streaked with soot and blood. They stiffen as they see us approach, awe momentarily overriding their combat focus. It is not often that common soldiers witness custodians in battle array. Report, I command their sergeant, a stocky woman with a last burn across one cheek. She salutes, her hand trembling slightly. "Multiple hostiles, my lord. They hit us without warning. Cultists, mostly, but led by, Emperor preserve us, what looked like space marines." "Colors?" I press. "Dark blue and gold, my lord." Symbols I did not recognize. I exchange a glance with Navradaran. The Thousand Sons, traitor legion of Magnus the Red, servants of Tzinch, sorcerers and manipulators, they rarely engage in direct assaults without some greater scheme in mind. "Their objective?" I ask. The sergeant shakes her head. "Unknown, my lord." They push through this section with minimal engagement, heading toward the Archivum chambers. The Archivum, a vast repository of knowledge containing countless documents from throughout imperial history. Strategic value, minimal. Symbolic value, moderate. Unless, which section of the Archivum? I demand, a cold certainty forming in my mind. "The Serpentine Wing, my lord, the sealed section. My suspicions are confirmed." The Serpentine Wing contains records from the time of the heresy and before, knowledge deemed too dangerous for general access. Texts that might contain information about the Emperor's work before the Imperium, about the Primarchs, about the Webway project. information that, in the hands of the servants of Tzeentch, could be devastating. "Hold this position," I order the sergeant. "Reinforcements are inbound from the proximal guard stations. Do not advance, do not retreat, hold." She salutes again, determination overriding her fear. "Until death, my lord." I nod once, acknowledging her oath, then turn to Navradaran, the Archivum, maximum speed. We move from a walk to a sprint in a single fluid motion, our enhanced physiology allowing us to reach speeds impossible for normal humans. The corridors blur around us, the distance that would take minutes for others covered in seconds. As we run, I vox Custodes, redirecting him and his team to intercept at the Archivum. The fire grows more intense as we approach the administrative sector. Flames lick at the ceiling, consuming ancient tapestries and priceless artworks. The heat would be unbearable for an unaugmented human, but our armor and enhanced biology render it merely uncomfortable. We push through chambers choked with smoke, past the bodies of those who could not escape the conflagration, and then we encounter the enemy. They appear suddenly from a side corridor, a group of robed cultists led by two towering figures in archaic power armor. The cultists are already corrupted, their bodies showing signs of mutation, additional eyes blinking from foreheads, fingers elongated into claws, skin taking on unnatural hues. But it is the Astartes who draw my focus. Their armor is indeed the blue and gold of the Thousand Suns, but altered, enhanced with arcane symbolism and eldritch technology. Where a loyalist marine's armor would bear the imperial aquila, theirs displays the twisted icon of their patron god. Their helmets are shaped to resemble the avian heads of Tzeentchian daemons, with curved beaks and multiple eye lenses that glow with internal witchlight. For a fraction of a second, both parties freeze in mutual recognition. Then training, experience, and superhuman reflexes take over. "For the Emperor," I intone, not as a battle cry but as a simple statement of fact. My guardian spear comes up in a blur of motion, its built-in bolter roaring to life. Mass reactive shells streak toward the nearest traitor marine, impacting against his corrupted armor. Against a normal opponent, even an Astartes, such a salvo would be devastating. But these are no ordinary traitors. A shimmering field of energy intercepts my shots, psychic power made manifest as a shield. The shells detonate harmlessly against this barrier, their explosive force dissipated into the warp. "Sorcerers," Navradaran spits, the word a curse from his lips. The Thousand Suns were always the most psychically gifted of the legions, and in their fall to chaos, these abilities have only grown more potent. But they are not the only ones with ancient weapons at their disposal. I shift my grip on the Guardian spear, activating the disruption field built into its blade. The air around the weapon head shimmers as reality itself is sliced apart at the molecular level. Against such a weapon, psychic shields mean little. The traitor marines respond in kind, raising force staves crackling with malefic energies. The cultists spread out, raising archaic pistols and twisted close combat weapons. "The captain is mine," one of the Thousand Suns declares, his voice distorted by his helm and by the unnatural harmonics that accompany the speech of those long exposed to the warp. "The other is yours, brother." "As you wish, Sorcerer Kion," the second replies with a mocking bow. Under normal circumstances, I would consider these exchanges, this posturing, to be a waste of precious combat time. But I understand their purpose. They seek to unsettle us, to introduce an element of psychological warfare to a conflict that should be decided purely by skill and strength. It is a tactic as old as war itself, and one that fails utterly against a custodian. I feel no fear, I feel no doubt. I feel only the cold certainty of purpose as I launch myself forward, my spear a golden blur aimed directly at the chest of the one called Kion. He reacts with transhuman speed, bringing his staff up to parry. The weapons connect with a thunderclap of discharged energy, psychic power meeting disruption field in a contest of opposed forces. Sparks cascade around us, igniting small fires where they land on flammable materials. From the corner of my eye, I see Navradaran engage the second traitor, while the cultists hang back, perhaps waiting for an opening, perhaps simply unwilling to get between such godlike combatants. Their caution is wise. The space between myself and Kion becomes a maelstrom of strikes, parries, and counterattacks, each moving at speeds no mortal eye could follow. A normal space marine, even one enhanced by the ruinous powers, would be no match for a custodian in single combat. We were created to be superior to the Astartes in every way, designed to face more terrible foes than even they were meant to battle, but these are not normal traitor marines. The sorcerous powers at their command partially bridge the gap between our capabilities. Kion feints with his staff, then gestures with his free hand. The air between us solidifies, invisible force slamming into my chest like a battering ram. My armor absorbs much of the impact, but I am still driven back several steps. Before I can recover, he follows up with a thrust of his staff, the head wreathed in blue flames that burn with unnatural coldness. I twist aside, the staff missing my chest by millimeters. The flames lick at my pauldron, instantly frosting the golden surface. I counter with a sweep of my spear, aiming to sever his legs at the knee. He leaps, impossibly high, somersaulting over my head to land behind me. But I am already turning, my movements anticipating his. The butt of my spear catches him in the helm, staggering him momentarily. I press the advantage, launching a flurry of strikes that force him onto the defensive. Each blow of my spear tears at his psychic shields, draining the energies he has wrapped around himself like a cloak. Impressive, he hisses between parries. The stories of the 10,000 do not exaggerate. But you face more than mere flesh and blood, Guardian. You face the power of the great ocean itself. His helm splits horizontally, retracting to reveal his face. Like many thousand suns, his flesh has mutated, taking on a reddish hue that seems to shift and flow like liquid. His eyes burn with inner fire, pupils shaped like the 8-pointed star of chaos. Those eyes lock with mine, and I feel a pressure building in my mind. Psychic assault, aimed not at my body but at my consciousness. Lesser warriors would falter, their thoughts overwhelmed by the sorcerous intrusion. But we Custodes were created with formidable mental defenses, designed to resist even the psychic might of the most powerful navigators and astropaths. I push back against the pressure, my mind hardening like adamantium. Kion grimaces, the strain of his failed assault showing on his inhuman features. "Your mind is closed to me," he acknowledges, a note of grudging respect in his voice. "But there are other ways to break a custodian." He gestures again, and the air around us thickens with power. The flames that had been consuming the corridor coalesce, forming humanoid shapes that dance and writhe with malicious intelligence. Fire elementals, conjured from the existing conflagration and bound to the sorcerer's will. They surge toward me, a tide of living flame. My disruption blade slices through the first, dispersing its form temporarily, but there are too many to fight conventionally. The heat intensifies, my armor's cooling systems straining against the onslaught. Warning runes flash across my helm's display as internal temperatures rise to dangerous levels. I activate an emergency system built into my armor, a one-use measure designed for exactly such circumstances. A pulse of null energy radiates outward from my form, temporarily dampening the connection between real space and the warp in my immediate vicinity. The fire elementals flicker and dissipate, their binding to this dimension severed. Kion staggers, his own connection to his psychic powers momentarily disrupted. I do not waste the opportunity. My spear thrusts forward with perfect precision, seeking the weak point where his gorget meets his breastplate, enhanced ceramite parts before the disruption field, and the blade sinks deep into his shoulder. Black blood, thick as oil and smelling of burning metal, sprays from the wound. Kion howls, a sound that contains harmonics impossible for a human throat to produce. He swings his staff wildly, forcing me to withdraw my spear and step back. "First blood to you, custodian," he snarls, his free hand pressed against the wound. "But this is far from over. A quick glance shows me that Navradaran is still engaged with the second traitor Marine, their duel as evenly matched as my own. The cultists have begun to advance, emboldened perhaps by the fact that we have not immediately slain their leaders. Time is not on our side. Each moment we spend in combat here is a moment the enemy's main force can use to penetrate deeper into the Archivum to find whatever forbidden knowledge they seek. I need to end this quickly. I press forward again, my attacks becoming more aggressive, more direct. I accept minor hits against my armor, ignoring the damage warnings that flash across my display, in exchange for forcing Kion to commit fully to his defense. No more elaborate psychic attacks, no more conjured servants. Just blade against blade, warrior against warrior. In this, at least, I have the advantage. Whatever sorcerer's power he commands, whatever unholy blessings his patron has bestowed upon him, he remains at his core an Astartes, and no Astartes, loyal or traitor, can match a custodian in martial skill. My spear moves in complex patterns, feinting, withdrawing, striking from unexpected angles. Each attack builds upon the last, forming a web of golden death that tightens around him with each exchange. He parries desperately, his movements becoming less fluid, as the wound in his shoulder takes its toll. "You cannot win," I tell him, my voice calm, matter of fact. "Surrender now, and your death will be quick." He laughs, a sound like breaking glass. "Death? You think I fear death, Golden One? Death is but a doorway for those who serve the Changer of Ways. Kill this form, and I will return, again and again, until the stars themselves grow cold. Then I will kill you, again and again," I reply, "until the end of time itself, if necessary." My spear flashes forward, faster than even his enhanced senses can track. The disruption blade passes through his staff as it rises too slowly to parry, through his breastplate and into his primary heart. His eyes widen in shock and pain. The blue flames that had wreathed his form sputter and die. "Impossible," he gasps, black blood bubbling from his lips. "The prophecy the texts speak of." I twist the blade, severing his secondary heart as well. "Your prophecies mean nothing here." He collapses, his armored form crashing to the floor with a sound like thunder. I withdraw my spear, its blade slick with corrupted blood. Already, his body is changing, flesh sublimating into unreality as the warp claims its servant. I turn to assist Navradaran, but find that he has dispatched his opponent with similar efficiency. The cultists, seeing their leaders fall, break ranks and flee down the corridor. We let them go. They are not the true threat, and our objective lies elsewhere. "The Archivum," I remind Navradaran, who nods in acknowledgement. We resume our advance, moving with renewed urgency. The skirmish has cost us precious minutes, time the main enemy force has undoubtedly used to further their agenda. As we run, I vox Custodes for an update. "In position outside the Serpentine Wing," he reports. "Signs of forced entry, heavy fighting within." "Hold position," I order. We approach from the rear. Trap them between our forces. The administrative sectors give way to the grand corridors of the Wars, Archivum Imperialis. Unlike the functional spaces we just traversed, these halls are built to inspire awe. Vaulted ceilings disappear into shadow above. The walls are lined with stasis cases containing texts of immeasurable value, knowledge preserved from the dark ages of technology, from the Great Crusade, from every era of imperial history. The air here tastes of dust and preservation chemicals, undercut now by the acrid tang of weapons discharge and the coppery scent of spilled blood. The signs of battle grow more pronounced as we approach the Serpentine Wing. Bodies litter the marble floor, most wearing the robes of Archivum staff, others the armor of palace security forces. Among them lie the twisted forms of cultists, their corrupted flesh already beginning to decompose at an accelerated rate, returning to the warp that had changed them. We round a corner and come face to face with Custodes and his team. They stand in defensive formation before the ornate doorway that marks the entrance to the Serpentine Wing. The doors themselves have been breached, the ancient locks shattered by force or sorcery. Status, I demand without preamble. Enemy forces inside, Custodes reports crisply. Approximately 20 cultists led by 3 traitor marines. They are searching for something specific. We have contained them but have not yet moved to eliminate. I nod in approval. Custodes has followed protocol perfectly. In situations involving potential theft of sensitive materials, containment takes priority over immediate elimination. Better to trap the enemy with whatever they seek than to drive them to desperate measures that might result in the destruction of irreplaceable knowledge. Formation, Praetorian Aegis. I command. Navradaran, Custodes, with me at the spear tip. The rest form the shield wall behind. The custodians move instantly into position, centuries of drilling making the complex maneuver as natural as breathing. 3 at the front in a wedge, the remainder forming a semicircle at our backs, guardian spears leveled to provide overlapping fields of fire. It is a formation designed for confined spaces, allowing maximum offensive capability while maintaining a strong defensive perimeter. We advance through the shattered doorway and into the serpentine wing. The space beyond lives up to its name, a twisting corridor that curves sinuously through the heart of the Archivum. The walls here are not merely lined with texts, but are texts themselves, microscopic script etched into adamantine panels, containing information too dangerous to commit to more vulnerable mediums. The floor is littered with the bodies of Archivum adepts, their robes stained dark with blood. Unlike the staff in the outer chambers, these were not merely scholars, but trained warriors of the Adeptus Astra Telepathica, psychically gifted individuals tasked with protecting the most sensitive information in the Imperium. They did not die easily, as evidenced by the cultist corpses that lie among them. We move deeper, following the sounds of activity from ahead. The corridor opens into a circular chamber dominated by a massive crystalline structure at its center, a data repository of alien design, technology from the Dark Age repurposed to serve the Emperor's will. It pulses with internal light, casting strange shadows across the room. Around this structure move robed figures, scanning the crystalline facets with arcane devices. Standing watch over them are 3 traitor marines in the colors of the Thousand Suns, their armor more ornate than those we encountered earlier, marking them as more senior in whatever corrupted hierarchy they serve. One of them, bearing a staff topped with a crystal that glows with the same light as the central repository, looks up as we enter. His helm is fashioned in the likeness of a jackal, its muzzle elongated and ears swept back. When he speaks, his voice resonates with unnatural power. "Right on schedule," he says, as if our arrival was not only expected but planned. The Guardians arrive to witness the culmination of our work. I do not respond to his taunt. Words are wasted on the heretic. Instead, I assess the tactical situation. The chamber offers little cover. The central repository blocks direct lines of fire to the far side, where a secondary exit is visible. The cultists are scattered, vulnerable, but the traitor marines stand in defensive postures that suggest experienced warriors. For the Emperor and the throne, I command, and as one, the custodians advance. The battle erupts with explosive violence. Bolter fire erupts from both sides, mass reactive shells detonating against armor, against the crystalline repository, against the ancient walls. The cultists scatter, some drawing weapons, others continuing their work with frantic energy, protected by shimmering psychic shields projected by their masters. I target the leader, the one with the staff, recognizing him as the greatest threat. Navradaran and Custodes break left and right, moving to flank the other traitors. The remaining custodians hold position at the entrance, preventing escape and maintaining suppressive fire. My target raises his staff, and reality ripples around him. The air between us fills with screaming faces, manifested psychic energy given temporary form. They rush toward me, their touch bringing not physical harm but mental assault, each contact a hammer blow against my psychological defenses. I push through them, my mind hardened against their attacks, my purpose absolute. The traitor backpedals, Surprised by my resistance, his staff comes up too late to parry my thrust. My spear punches through his psychic shield with a sound like shattering glass, the disruption field destabilizing the sorceress' protection. But before the killing blow can land, he vanishes, physically translocated to another position in the chamber. Sorcery, the coward's way of war. I track his movement, finding him now atop the crystalline repository, balanced precariously on one of its jutting facets. "You fight well, Custodian," he calls down, "but you fail to understand what is happening here. We are not your enemy today. We are merely, shall we say, the weight that tips the scales." Even as he speaks, I notice that the cultists have completed whatever task they were performing. They step back from the repository, which now pulses with increased intensity, the light within shifting from white to a nauseating purple. Warning signals flash across my helm's display, detecting energy patterns consistent with warp manifestation. "Stop them!" I command, but it is too late. The cultists begin a chant, their voices merging into a single discordant harmony. The repository responds, the light pulsing in time with their words. The temperature in the chamber plummets, frost forming on our armor, on the walls, on the very air itself. I launch myself toward the repository, intent on interrupting whatever ritual they have begun. The traitor leader gestures with his staff, and a wall of force slams into me, driving me back. I fight against it, each step forward a battle of will as much as physical strength. Around me, my brothers engage the other traitors, golden auramite against corrupted ceramite, guardian spears against chaos-tainted weaponry. They fight with the perfect precision that is our hallmark, each movement economical, each strike potentially lethal. But the Thousand Sons are not easily defeated, their sorcerous abilities making them slippery opponents, difficult to pin down, impossible to predict. The chanting reaches a crescendo, and the repository shatters with a thunderclap of released energy. Crystalline shards explode outward, slicing through cultists, rebounding from our armor. A swirling vortex of purple light replaces the structure, a tear in reality through which something is emerging. A figure steps from the warp rift, tall and imposing even by the standards of the Astartes. His armor is the blue and gold of the Thousand Sons, but more ornate than any I have yet seen, covered in eldritch symbols and pulsing with internal light. His helm is removed, revealing a face that is handsome and terrible in equal measure, its proportions perfect but its expression utterly inhuman. I know him immediately, though I have never seen him in person. The memories implanted in my creation include knowledge of all the Emperor's sons, both loyal and traitor. This is Ahriman, chief librarian of the Thousand Sons, architect of the rubric that saved his legion from mutation at the cost of their humanity, one of the most dangerous psychers in the galaxy. The inner sanctum is breached. I vox to all custodians in the palace, activating emergency protocols that have lain dormant for millennia. Traitor Primarch sighted. This is not a drill. But even as the words leave my lips, I know something is wrong. Ahriman is powerful, one of the most feared sorcerers in existence, but he is no Primarch. Yet, as I look upon him, my enhanced senses detect something impossible. The psychic signature radiating from him is too vast, too powerful for even one such as he. It is as if he serves as a conduit for something greater, something that cannot fully manifest in the material realm. "At last," the traitor leader says, dropping to one knee before Ahriman. "The texts are secured, my lord. The ritual is complete." Ahriman surveys the chamber, his gaze passing over the embattled custodians as if we are of no consequence. When he speaks, his voice is layered, multiple tones speaking in perfect unison. "The Crimson King will be pleased," he says, using the title of his gene father, Magnus the Red. "The first key is ours." I do not know what key he refers to, but I know my duty. With a wordless battle cry, I charge toward him, my spear aimed at his heart. The traitor leader moves to intercept, but I bat him aside with a backhanded blow that sends him crashing into the wall. Ahriman turns to face me, unhurried, almost curious. He makes no move to defend himself as I close the distance. as my spear thrusts toward his chest. It is only when the disruption blade is mere centimeters from his armor that he acts. A gesture, almost casual, a word spoken in a language that burns my ears and scars my mind, and I am frozen, locked in place as surely as if I had been encased in adamantium. My muscles strain against invisible bonds, my mind rages against the psychic intrusion, but to no avail. Interesting, Ahriman says, examining me as one might examine an unusual insect. The Emperor's handiwork is impressive. Even after all this time, your mental defenses are formidable, Custodian, but ultimately insufficient. He reaches out, his gauntleted hand hovering just above my helm. I feel pressure building in my mind, a presence vast and alien attempting to force entry into my thoughts. I resist with every ounce of willpower granted to me by my enhanced biology and centuries of training. For a moment, it seems I might succeed. The pressure wavers, Ahriman's expression showing the first hint of strain. But then the presence redoubles its efforts, and pain explodes behind my eyes, white-hot agony that threatens to overwhelm even my transhuman tolerance for suffering. Images flood my mind. The Golden Throne. The Emperor, not as the withered husk he has become, but as he was, in all his glory. The Primarchs gathered around him. The Webway Project. The Emperor's secret ambition to free humanity from reliance on warp travel. Fragments of knowledge I should not possess, could not possess, drawn from the deepest recesses of my mind, or perhaps implanted there by the intruding presence. Yes, Ahriman murmurs, his voice distant through the haze of pain. Just as the prophecy foretold, the guardian who remembers, the key that walks. With a supreme effort of will, I manage to speak, each word forced through gritted teeth. I am no key, I am his sentinel, his blade, his will made manifest. You are what he made you to be, Ahriman agrees, but perhaps not for the purpose you believe. Before he can elaborate, golden light floods the chamber. The pressure in my mind abates as Ahriman turns toward this new threat. From the corner of my eye, I see reinforcements arriving, a shield host of my brothers led by the Tribune himself, their armor gleaming in the unearthly light of the warp rift. Ahriman steps back, releasing me from his psychic grip. I stagger but remain standing, my spear still clutched in my hand. Another time, perhaps, he says, seeming unperturbed by the arrival of over a dozen custodians. The seeds are planted, the wheel turns. We will meet again, Decimus Valen. With those cryptic words, he raises his hand, and the warp rift expands, engulfing him and his surviving followers. Reality tears, bleeds, then seals itself once more. They are gone, vanished back into the immaterium from which they came. I stand amid the wreckage of the Serpentine Wing, my brothers moving to secure the area around me. The Tribune approaches, his ornate armor marking him as one of the highest-ranking members of the Custodian Guard. "Shield Captain," he acknowledges. "Report." I straighten, pushing aside the lingering effects of Ahriman's psychic assault. The enemy breached the Serpentine Wing and accessed the crystalline repository. They extracted something, information of some kind, before using it to open a warp rift. Ahriman of the Thousand Suns led the operation personally. The Tribune's expression is unreadable behind his helm, but the slight stiffening of his posture betrays his concern. "Ahriman, you are certain?" "I am," I confirm. He referred to a key, and to a prophecy concerning a guardian who remembers. His exact purpose remains unclear, but he achieved his objective before we could stop him. "This is most disturbing," the Tribune says. "If Ahriman himself has taken the field, the stakes are higher than we initially believed. And this talk of keys and prophecies, it smacks of Tsentian scheming." I nod in agreement, but my mind is troubled by more than the tactical implications of the attack. The psychic assault has left something behind, a splinter of thought that does not feel like my own. A question that pulses in time with my heartbeat. What if my purpose is not what I have always believed? What if the Emperor created me, created all custodians, for reasons beyond mere guardianship? I push the thought aside. Such doubts are unworthy of one of the 10,000. My purpose is clear, has always been clear: to serve, to protect, to stand eternal vigil over the master of mankind. Nothing Ahriman said or did can change that fundamental truth. The palace is secure, the Tribune continues. The enemy forces in the outer complex have been eliminated or have retreated. It appears this was their primary objective all along, a surgical strike at the Serpentine Wing while the main attack served as a diversion. We should increase security on all knowledge repositories, I suggest. If they sought one key, they may return for others. Already ordered, the Tribune assures me. And the Serpentine Wing will be placed under quarantine until we can determine exactly what was taken and why. The Emperor protects, Shield Captain. The Emperor protects. I echo, the ritual response automatic after 10 millennia of service. But as we leave the shattered chamber, as we return to our duties and our eternal vigil, a small voice in the back of my mind whispers a different truth. The Emperor protects, yes. But who protects the Emperor? And from what? The days following the attack pass in a haze of increased vigilance and heightened security protocols. The palace, already the most heavily fortified structure in the galaxy, becomes a virtual fortress within a fortress. Entire sections are locked down, access restricted even to those who would normally move freely through its corridors. The Adeptus Custodes mobilize in numbers not seen since the last Black Crusade, our golden armor a constant presence in every critical location. And through it all, I stand my vigil before the Eternity Gate, outwardly unchanged, inwardly seething with questions I cannot answer and doubts I should not have. The encounter with Ahriman has affected me more deeply than I care to admit. Not the combat itself, for I have faced deadlier foes in my long existence. Not even the psychic assault, though the pain of that intrusion still echoes in my mind during quiet moments. No, what troubles me are the words he spoke, the implications he raised, the key that walks. The guardian who remembers, as if I am something more than a mere sentinel, as if my existence serves some purpose beyond the obvious. On the 7th day after the attack, I am relieved of my post by Navradaran. The changing of the guard is a ritual we have performed countless times, a choreographed exchange of positions that takes exactly 12 seconds to complete. No words are necessary, none are spoken. But today, as I turn to leave, Navradaran speaks, breaking protocol in a way he has never done before. The Tribune requests your presence in the Hall of Weapons, he says, his voice pitched low enough that only my enhanced hearing could detect it. Immediately. I acknowledge with the slightest nod, then proceed to the designated location, my mind racing with possibilities. The Hall of Weapons is not merely an armory, though it serves that function. It is also one of the most secure meeting places within the palace, protected by technologies and wards that make it virtually impervious to any form of surveillance or intrusion. It is where the custodians go when they must discuss matters of the utmost sensitivity. The Tribune is waiting when I arrive, along with 2 others, Custodes and a figure I recognize as Valerian, the shield captain who serves as blade champion of the custodian guard. All have removed their helms, a sign that this gathering is informal, outside the normal chain of command. Decimus, the Tribune greets me, using my given name rather than my rank. Another departure from protocol. Thank you for coming. I remove my own helm, hooking it to my belt. You requested my presence, Tribune. I am here to serve. Indeed, he says, his ancient face as impassive as ever. But the question of how best to serve has become more complex in light of recent events. He gestures to a hololithic projector at the center of the chamber. It activates at his command, displaying a 3-dimensional image of the crystalline repository from the Serpentine Wing, now shattered beyond repair. We have completed our analysis of the attack, the Tribune continues. The repository contained information dating back to the time of the Great Crusade, specifically concerning the Emperor's work on the human genome and the creation of enhanced warriors. The Custodes, the Thunder Warriors, the Astartes, and other less successful attempts. I frown, not understanding the significance. This information, while valuable, hardly seems worth the risk Ahriman took in retrieving it personally. Such knowledge would be of historical interest, but offers little practical advantage to the traitor legions. That was our initial assessment as well, Custodes interjects. But further investigation revealed something unusual. The repository had been accessed once before, approximately 900 years ago, by the Captain General himself, acting on direct orders from the High Lords of Terra. This is surprising news. The Captain General rarely involves himself in the minutiae of Archivum operations, and to do so on behalf of the High Lords suggests political considerations beyond the normal purview of the Custodian Guard. What was the purpose of this access? I inquire. Unknown, Valerian replies. The records are sealed with the Captain General's personal cipher. What we do know is that following this access, new security protocols were implemented specifically for you, Decimus. I stiffen, caught off guard by this revelation. For me, I was not informed of any special protocols. No, you were not, the Tribune confirms. They were implemented without your knowledge. Surveillance parameters, tracking systems, psychic monitoring, all focused on you, specifically. My mind reels with the implications. To be watched by my own brothers, treated as a potential threat rather than a trusted comrade, it is almost unthinkable. Almost. You believe I am compromised, I state flatly, not a question but a conclusion. No, the Tribune says firmly. If we believed that, you would not be standing here. You would be in a cell, your mind being scoured by the Silent Sisters for any trace of corruption. What we believe is that you are important, in ways that even the Captain General may not fully understand. He manipulates the hololithic display, shifting from the image of the repository to one of me, standing vigil before the Eternity Gate. The image cycles through what must be years of such duty, my posture unchanging, my vigilance absolute. You are the oldest serving custodian in active duty, the Tribune explains. The only one remaining who stood with the Emperor during the Unification Wars, before the Imperium, before the Primarchs. You guarded him when he still walked among humanity. You witnessed the construction of the Golden Throne. You were present for his final instructions before he was interred upon it. I nod slowly, memories of those ancient days surfacing in my mind. Memories I have deliberately suppressed for millennia, for they belong to a different world, a different existence almost. Before the long vigil, before eternity stretched before me like an endless golden corridor. And now Ahriman, one of the most powerful sorcerers in the galaxy, breaks into the most heavily fortified structure in existence, bypasses treasures of incalculable value, ignores strategic information that could turn the tide of 100 wars, all to access ancient records about genetic modification. Valerian continues. And in the process, he specifically targets you, refers to you as a key, suggests you have a purpose beyond that which you have served for 10,000 years. The implications are disturbing, I admit, but I am what I have always been, a guardian, a sentinel, one of the 10,000, nothing more. Are you certain? Custodes asks, his voice uncharacteristically gentle. Have you experienced nothing unusual since the attack? No strange thoughts? No memories surfacing that had previously been forgotten? I hesitate, remembering the splinter of doubt that has taken root in my mind, the questions that now plague my once certain purpose. And older memories, scenes from the distant past that I had not recalled in millennia, now suddenly vivid and present. My silence is answer enough. The Tribune nods, as if confirming a suspicion. We believe Ahriman's psychic assault was not meant to harm you, but to activate something within you, he explains. Something dormant, planted long ago, perhaps by the Emperor himself. To what end, I demand, an edge entering my voice. What purpose could such a thing serve? That, Valerian says, is what we intend to find out. And to do so, we need your cooperation, Decimus. We need you to remember. Remember, The word echoes in my mind, resonating with the strange woman's admonition from before the attack. Remember what you fight for. And with Ahriman's words, the guardian who remembers, as if memory itself is a weapon, a tool, a key. How? I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. In answer, the tribune gestures to a corner of the chamber where an object stands covered by a cloth of deepest black. He approaches it, pulling the covering away to reveal a device I have not seen in 10,000 years. A psychic resonator, technology from the Dark Age, modified by the Emperor's own hand for use, in the creation of the Primarchs and later the Custodes. This will allow us to access memories buried deep within your consciousness, the Tribune explains, even those you may have been made to forget. I stare at the device, ancient beyond reckoning, its purpose both miraculous and terrible, to lay bare the mind, to expose every thought, every memory, every secret hidden even from oneself. The mere existence of such a device within the palace raises questions I am not prepared to ask. This is forbidden technology, I say, stating the obvious. Its use constitutes tech heresy of the highest order. The situation demands extreme measures, the Tribune replies unapologetically. If you are indeed some form of key as Ahriman believes, if you contain knowledge or abilities unknown even to yourself, we must discover them before the enemy can exploit them. I look from face to face. These brothers with whom I have served for centuries or millennia, their expressions are grave but determined. They have already decided on this course of action. The only question is whether I will submit willingly or be compelled. In truth, there is no choice to make. My duty has always been clear, to serve the Emperor by whatever means necessary. If I have become a liability, a potential weapon for the enemy to use against him, then I must do whatever is required to neutralize that threat, even if it means surrendering the sanctity of my own mind. I consent, I say simply. The Tribune nods, relief visible in his ancient eyes. Then let us begin. The procedure is not painful, at least not in the physical sense. I am seated in a throne-like chair, the psychic resonator positioned above my head like a malevolent halo. Connections are made, directly to my neural pathways through small incisions at the base of my skull. My armor is removed, leaving me clad only in the simple black body glove worn beneath. I feel vulnerable in a way I have not experienced since before my transformation, when I was still fully human. The Tribune operates the controls himself, unwilling to delegate such a sensitive task. The others stand back, observing, ready to intervene should something go wrong, though what they could do against a malfunctioning Dark Age device is unclear. Focus on the memories Ahriman seems to have triggered. The Tribune instructs, the creation of the Custodes, the Emperor's work, the time before the throne. I close my eyes, concentrating as directed. The resonator hums to life, its arcane energies washing over my mind like a tide of liquid crystal. I feel my consciousness expanding, stretching across time, breaking free from the linear progression of memory to exist at all points simultaneously, and I remember. I remember my life before. Not the vague impressions that all Custodes retain of their human origins, but vivid, specific recollections. A family, a home in the wastes of ancient Ursh. War, starvation, death, then salvation, as the armies of the Emperor swept across the land, bringing unity through conquest. I remember being chosen, taken to the laboratories beneath what would become the Imperial Palace. The pain of transformation, my body unmade and reforged according to the Emperor's design, the loss of my old identity, replaced by a new purpose, a new name, a new existence. I remember standing in the Emperor's presence for the first time as a completed custodian, feeling the weight of his gaze upon me, the psychic pressure of his attention. And I remember what he said, words I had somehow forgotten until this moment. You will be my memory, Decimus. When all else is lost, when even I have forgotten, you will remember for me. The scene shifts, jumps forward in time. The Great Crusade is underway. The Primarchs have been found. have taken command of their legions. I stand guard in the Emperor's private sanctum as he works on a project of immense complexity, a webway of his own design, a path through the warp that would free humanity from reliance on psychers and navigators. The future depends on this succeeding, he tells me, though I have not asked. It is rare for him to explain his actions, rarer still for him to express anything resembling doubt. But should it fail, should the worst come to pass, you will be my contingency. You and the others like you. Another shift. The heresy has begun. The Primarchs are divided, half in rebellion against their father. The Emperor prepares to face Horus, his most beloved son, now corrupted beyond redemption. Before he departs for that final confrontation, he summons me to his side. If I do not return, he says, his voice heavy with the weight of foreknowledge, you must stand guard over what remains, for as long as it takes, until I am able to provide new instructions. I will not fail you, my lord, I promise, meaning every word with the totality of my being. No, he agrees, a sad smile crossing his perfect features. You were designed not to fail, Decimus. That is both your strength and your tragedy. The memories blur, accelerate. The Emperor, broken and dying after his battle with Horus, being interred upon the Golden Throne. The agonizing years that follow, as the Imperium rebuilds itself around the legend of a god rather than the reality of a man. The slow ossification of hope into dogma, of purpose into blind obedience. And through it all, I stand guard, unchanging, unwavering, a golden sentinel at the gates of eternity. But there is something else, something deeper, hidden beneath these surface memories. I push further, guided by the Resonator's alien technology, delving into recesses of my mind I did not know existed, and there, in the deepest vault of my consciousness, I find it. A memory that is not a memory, knowledge implanted directly, bypassing experience entirely. I see the Emperor not as he was, but as he might be, restored, reborn, rising from the Golden Throne, his power undimmed by the long millennia of suffering. I see him leading humanity once more, not as a distant god but as the ruler he was meant to be. I see a future where the light of progress pushes back the darkness of superstition and fear, and I understand my role in bringing about this future. The key that walks, the guardian who remembers. I carry within me not merely memories but instructions, a detailed blueprint for the Emperor's resurrection, implanted in my mind by the Master of Mankind himself before he was confined to the throne. Information so dangerous, so volatile, that it could not be trusted to any physical repository. Information that could save humanity or damn it, depending on whose hands it falls into. That is what Ahriman sought. That is why I have been watched for centuries by my own brothers. That is what the Emperor meant when he said I would be his memory. I surface from the depths of recollection with a gasp, my body slick with sweat, my heart's pounding in my chest. The Tribune stands before me, his expression a mix of awe and concern. You saw it, he says, not a question but a statement of fact. I did. I confirm, my voice hoarse as if I have been screaming, though I do not remember making a sound. I know what I am now, what I was created to be. Then you understand the gravity of our situation, Valerian interjects. If Ahriman and his master learn what you know, they could use it against the Imperium, against the Emperor himself. I nod slowly, the full implications settling upon my shoulders like a weight greater than any armor. The knowledge I contain, it could allow for the Emperor's true return, his resurrection in full power, not merely as the corpse that sustains the Astronomicon, but in the wrong hands, it could also be used to destroy him completely, to sever his connection to humanity once and for all. Which is why you must be protected at all costs, the Tribune declares. No longer will you stand vigil at the Eternity Gate, exposed to potential threats. You will be sequestered in the innermost chambers of the palace, guarded by your brothers, until we can determine how best to proceed with this knowledge. I rise from the chair, feeling oddly light without my armor, as if I might float away from the ground at any moment. No, I say, the word falling from my lips before I have fully considered its implications. The Tribune's eyes narrow. No? This is not a request, Shield Captain. This is a direct order from the ranking member of the Custodian Guard present. With respect, Tribune, I reply, finding strength in the certainty that now fills me. I cannot comply. The Emperor did not hide this knowledge within me so that it could remain buried for all time. He intended it to be used when the moment was right. And who determines when that moment has arrived? Custodes demands. You? Us? The High Lords? This information is too dangerous to act upon without absolute certainty. The Emperor determines, I answer simply, and he has already set events in motion. Why do you think Ahriman was able to penetrate our defenses now, after 10,000 years of failure? Why do you think I was stationed at the Eternity Gate on that specific day, when I might have been assigned anywhere in the palace? Why do you think the medallion was delivered to me, activating dormant memory engrams and preparing my mind for Ahriman's psychic key? I see the doubt in their eyes, the ingrained caution that has defined our existence for millennia. We are guardians, sentinels, protectors of the status quo. Change is anathema to our purpose. Yet the Emperor created us to be more than mere watchmen. He created us to understand his will, to act as extensions of his purpose. The time has come, I continue, conviction growing with each word. The galaxy stands on the precipice of transformation. The great rift tears reality asunder. The Primarch Guilliman walks among us once more. These are not random events but pieces of a grand design, a plan set in motion, 10,000 years ago by the master of mankind himself. This sounds dangerously close to heresy, Valerian warns, though I sense uncertainty in his tone. You speak of the Emperor as if he is still actively guiding events, not merely sustaining the Imperium through his suffering. Because he is, I insist. His body may be broken, his communication limited to the briefest of psychic impressions, but his mind, his will, continues to work toward humanity's salvation. And we, his custodians, are not merely guards at the gate, but instruments of that will. I look each of them in the eye, these brothers with whom I have served for centuries. I must go to the throne room. I must stand before the Emperor himself. Only then will the final key be turned, the final memory unlocked. Only then will we know how to proceed. The Tribune shakes his head, adamant in his refusal. Impossible. Access to the throne room is restricted to the Captain General and selected companions only. Even I cannot authorize such a request. Then take me to the Captain General, I counter. Let me present what I have discovered. Let him make the final judgment. A heavy silence falls over the chamber as the Tribune considers my words. He is ancient even by the standards of our kind, his service stretching back almost as far as my own. He has witnessed the slow decay of the Imperium, the gradual ossification of purpose into dogma, yet he has also remained true to our original calling, to serve the Emperor's will above all else. Very well, he says at last, we will seek audience with the Captain General, but Decimus, be warned. If he deems your request too dangerous, if he determines that the knowledge you carry presents too great a risk, he has the authority to order your mind wiped clean, to destroy what makes you who you are while preserving your body as a weapon in the Emperor's service. I understand, I reply, accepting this possibility with the calm certainty that has defined my existence. If my purpose is served by such an end, then so be it. The journey to the Captain General's sanctum is conducted in silence, each of us lost in our own thoughts. My mind races with the implications of what I have discovered, with the weight of the knowledge I now carry consciously rather than buried in the depths of my being. 10,000 years I have stood guard, never knowing that I myself was a repository of the Emperor's most secret designs, that I was created not merely to fight and to protect, but to remember, to serve as a living record of his intentions should all other sources be lost or corrupted. The Captain General receives us in his private strategium, a circular chamber whose walls are lined with tactical displays showing the status of Terra's defenses and, beyond them, the state of the wider Imperium. He is a giant even among custodians, his armor more ornate than our own, inscribed with the names of every battle he has fought in service to the throne. His face, when he removes his helm, is stern and weathered, bearing the weight of responsibility that comes with commanding the 10,000. "Tribune," he acknowledges with a nod, "this is an unexpected gathering. What brings 4 of my shield captains to my door with such urgency?" The Tribune explains the situation concisely, relating the attack on the Serpentine Wing, Ahriman's involvement, the discovery of the surveillance protocols placed upon me, and finally, the use of the psychic resonator and what it revealed. Throughout his recitation, the Captain General's expression remains impassive, but I sense a growing tension in his posture. When the Tribune finishes, the Captain General turns his attention directly to me. His gaze is penetrating, as if he could extract the hidden knowledge from my mind through will alone. Perhaps he can, for the Captain General's psychic sensitivity is said to be almost as great as that of the custodians who serve within the throne room itself, in direct proximity to the Emperor's withered form. "You believe you carry instructions for the Emperor's resurrection," he states, his tone neutral, giving away nothing of his own thoughts on the matter. "Not merely instructions," I clarify, "a key, the final piece in a puzzle that has been assembling itself for millennia. The return of the Primarch Guilliman, the opening of the Great Rift, the increased activity of the Thousand Suns. All of these events are connected, parts of a grand design set in motion by the Emperor before he was interred upon the Golden Throne. And you learned this from memories implanted within your mind 10,000 years ago." There is skepticism in his voice, though carefully controlled. Memories that you yourself were unaware of until this very day. "Yes, Lord Captain General, I confirm. The Emperor foresaw many possible futures. He prepared contingencies for each. I am one such contingency, designed to activate should certain conditions be met. And those conditions have now been met. It is not a question but a statement of understanding." "They have," I reply. "The delivery of the medallion, the attack on the Serpentine Wing, Ahriman's psychic intrusion. These were not random events but triggers, each unlocking a portion of the hidden knowledge within me." The Captain General rises from his seat, moving to a tactical display that shows not the Imperium but the Imperial Palace itself, a 3-dimensional schematic of its countless chambers, corridors, and defensive positions. He studies it for a long moment, his back to us, before speaking again. "What you suggest would require bringing you into the presence of the Emperor himself," he says, his voice low and measured. "No custodian of your rank has entered the throne room in over 3,000 years. The security protocols alone would take days to modify." "With respect, Lord Captain General," I interject, "time is not on our side. Ahriman now knows what I am, what I contain. He will report to his master, Magnus the Red. They will make another attempt to extract the knowledge I carry, perhaps with greater forces, perhaps with more subtle means. We must act before they do." He turns to face me, his expression grave. "You understand what you are asking? To approach the Emperor in his current state is to risk exposure to psychic energies that could destroy your mind, custodian or not. The Silent Sisters who attend him can only mitigate so much of his uncontrolled power, and should your theory prove incorrect, should this be some elaborate trap set by the Thousand Suns, you would have brought potential corruption into the very heart of the Imperium. I understand the risk, I acknowledge, and I accept it. If I am wrong, if this is indeed some scheme of the ruinous powers, then my life is forfeit. But if I am right, if the Emperor has indeed been guiding events toward this moment, then to hesitate now would be to fail him when he needs us most." The Captain General's gaze moves from me to each of the others in turn, gauging their reactions, their support or lack thereof for my request. The Tribune stands firm, his posture conveying neither endorsement nor opposition. Valerian appears skeptical but open to persuasion. Custodes alone shows clear doubt, his hand resting perhaps unconsciously on the hilt of his guardian spear. "There is another possibility," the Captain General says at last. "One that none of you have considered. What if both possibilities are true? What if the Emperor did indeed implant this knowledge within you, Decimus, but the enemy has now found a way to corrupt it, to twist it to their own purposes? What if you are both key and trap, both salvation and damnation?" The thought sends a chill through me, a sensation I have not experienced in centuries. Could it be true? Could the knowledge I carry, the purpose I now feel with such certainty, be not the Emperor's design but a perversion of it, a corruption introduced by Ahriman's time's psychic intrusion? Then all the more reason to bring me before the Emperor. I argue, he alone can distinguish truth from falsehood, his will from the enemy's corruption. If I am tainted, he will know it, and he will destroy me where I stand. The Captain General nods slowly, as if my willingness to accept such an end confirms something he had suspected. "Very well, Shield Captain Decimus Vallon, I will grant your request. You will be brought before the Golden Throne, into the presence of the Master of Mankind. But know this, the consequences of this audience will fall not only upon you but upon all who have supported this course of action." His gaze sweeps over the tribune, Valerian, and Custodes, making it clear that their fates are now bound to mine. If this proves to be folly, the price will be high indeed. "We understand, Lord Captain General," the tribune responds for all of us, "and we accept the responsibility." "Then it is decided," the Captain General declares. "Prepare yourselves. We proceed to the Sanctum Imperialis within the hour. The preparations are minimal, for custodians are always ready for battle, for duty, for death if necessary. My armor is returned to me, freshly blessed by the palace armorers, its golden surface gleaming under the artificial lights. I don it piece by piece, each component locking into place with familiar precision. The weight of it is comforting, a constant companion through 10 millennia of service. The medallion, the strange gift from the old woman who was surely more than she appeared, I place in a reliquary box attached to my belt. Its presence seems to hum against my side, a physical manifestation of the knowledge now awakened within me. We proceed through the palace by a route unknown to most, a direct path to the Sanctum Imperialis that bypasses the usual checkpoints and guard stations. The Captain General leads, followed by the Tribune and myself, with Valerian and Custodes bringing up the rear. Our procession draws curious glances from the few we encounter, but none dare question the Captain General's authority. As we near the innermost sanctum, the air grows heavy with psychic residue, the accumulated power of the Emperor's presence seeping through even the thick walls of the palace. My enhanced senses detect fluctuations in temperature, in air pressure, in the very fabric of reality as we approach the nexus of humanity's faith and hope. The final doorway looms before us, a massive portal of adamantium and auramite, inscribed with wards against demonic intrusion and psychic scrying. Before it stand two silent sisters, their presence a void in the psychic maelstrom, and two custodians of the companions, the highest order of our brotherhood, those chosen to stand eternal vigil within the throne room itself. They recognize the Captain General immediately, saluting with perfect precision. He returns the gesture, then speaks to them in a language older than the Imperium itself, a battle cant developed during the Unification Wars and preserved only among the most senior of the Custodian Guard. I understand it, though I have not heard it spoken in millennia. "We come by authority of the Captain General," he states formally, "to bring one who remembers into the presence of he who commands." The companions exchange a glance, then respond in the same ancient tongue. The presence is volatile today. The sisters report increased psychic activity. Approach with caution. They step aside, and the great door begins to open, moving ponderously on hinges designed to support its immense weight. Beyond lies the culmination of my 10,000 years of service, the being I was created to serve and protect. The Emperor of Mankind. The throne room defies description. It is a space both larger and smaller than it appears, its dimensions shifting subtly as reality itself bends around the power contained within. At its center stands the Golden Throne, a massive technological construct of unknown origin and purpose, modified by the Emperor's own hand to serve as both life support system and psychic amplifier, and upon it sits what remains of the Master of Mankind. His form is withered, desiccated, barely recognizable as human. Tubes and cables connect his body to the throne, pumping in nutrients, removing waste, monitoring the last flickers of biological function. His face, once the most perfect human visage ever to exist, is now a skull-like mask stretched over with parchment-thin skin. Yet despite this physical decay, the psychic presence emanating from the throne is overwhelming. It beats against my mind like a solar storm, raw power barely contained, constantly threatening to break free and scour the palace, terror, perhaps the entire system with its uncontrolled force. The silent sisters within the chamber move constantly, their null fields providing the only barriers against this psychic hurricane. Servitors shuffle between monitoring stations, their minds too simple to be affected by the Emperor's power. And the companions stand at their posts, unmoved, unchanging, their vigilance eternal. We approach slowly, reverently. Even the Captain General, who has stood in this chamber many times before, moves with careful deliberation. Each step brings us closer to the epicenter of human faith, to the being who shaped our species' destiny and continues to sustain it through his eternal suffering. When we are perhaps 20 paces from the throne itself, the Captain General halts, gesturing for the rest of us to do the same. Only I am to proceed further, to approach the Emperor alone, as it should be, as it must be. I step forward, each movement feeling simultaneously like the easiest and the most difficult action I have ever taken. The weight of history, of purpose, of destiny presses down upon me. In this moment, I am acutely aware of what I am, what I was created to be. Not merely a guardian, but a vessel, a container for knowledge too dangerous to be entrusted to any physical repository. As I draw nearer to the throne, the psychic pressure intensifies. My mind, enhanced though it is, struggles to maintain coherent thought in the face of such power. Images flash before my eyes, fragments of memories both mine and not mine. The Great Crusade, the heresy, the long millennia of the Imperium's slow decay, and through it all, the constant, the unchanging presence of the Emperor, his consciousness stretched across time and space, fighting a battle beyond mortal comprehension. I reach the base of the throne and kneel, my head bowed in reverence and submission. The proper protocols for addressing the Emperor have been lost to time, for he no longer communicates in ways that can be responded to with mere words. So I rely on what I remember from the time before, when he still walked among humanity as its leader rather than its god. My Emperor, I begin, my voice barely audible even to my own enhanced hearing. I am Decimus Valen, Shield Captain of your Adeptus Custodes. I come before you as I was instructed, when the signs aligned and the key was delivered. I come to fulfill my purpose. There is no response, no acknowledgement from the withered form above me, yet I sense, or perhaps imagine, a subtle shift in the psychic pressure, a focusing of that immense power upon my kneeling form. I remove the medallion from its reliquary box, holding it up as if in offering. The key was delivered, as you foresaw. The Guardian remembers, as you intended. I stand ready to serve your will, as I have for 10,000 years. The medallion begins to glow with an inner light, not the sickly purple of chaos sorcery, but the pure gold of the Emperor's own power. It grows hot in my hand, not burning but warming, like blood returning to a limb long numbed by cold. And with that warmth comes clarity, a crystallization of the knowledge that had been fragmented within my mind. I understand now, fully, completely, with a certainty that transcends mere intellectual grasp. I understand what the Emperor planned, what he set in motion before his interment upon the throne. I understand my role in that plan, the purpose for which I was created and preserved through the long millennia, and I understand what must happen next. I rise to my feet, turning to face the Captain General and my brothers. Their expressions show concern, confusion, a reflection of the psychic turmoil that must be visible in the air around me. The medallion in my hand pulses with golden light, synchronizing with my heartbeat, with the rhythm of my thoughts. The Emperor has shown me the way. I announce, my voice stronger now, resonating with newfound purpose. I know what must be done. What was always meant to be done when the time was right. And what is that, Shield Captain? The Captain General asks, his tone cautious. A sacrifice, I reply simply. The final key is not an object or a piece of information. It is an act, a willing surrender of that which is most precious. Understanding dawns in the Captain General's ancient eyes. You speak of your own life. No, I correct him gently, not my life, my purpose, my identity. The essence of what makes me Decimus Valen, Shield Captain of the Adeptus Custodes. That is what must be given up, surrendered to him who gave it to me in the first place. You would allow the Emperor to absorb your consciousness. Valerian asks, horrified, to consume your very soul. Not consume. I explain, the words coming not from my training or experience but from the knowledge newly crystallized within me. Incorporate, integrate. I was created as a repository, a backup, a fragment of his own mind preserved against the possibility of degradation over the millennia of his imprisonment upon the throne. I turn back toward the withered form of the Emperor, feeling his attention upon me like the heat of a Sunday 10,000 years he has fought in the immaterium. His consciousness stretched to breaking point, fragmented across dimensions we cannot perceive. In that eternal battle, pieces of himself have been lost, memories and knowledge vital to his ultimate purpose. I was created to safeguard those pieces, to return them when the time was right. And that time is now? The Tribune inquires, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what I am suggesting. It is, I confirm. The return of the Primarch Gilliman, the opening of the Great Rift, the increased activity of the Thousand Suns. These are not random events but indicators, waypoints on a path laid out millennia ago. The Emperor foresaw this moment, prepared for it, created me and others like me to ensure it would unfold as intended. Others. Custodes seizes on the word. There are more like you? There were, I answer, ancient memories surfacing once more. 9 of us, originally, each carrying a different fragment of his consciousness, his plan. I do not know if the others survive, if they have fulfilled their purpose or still wait for the appropriate moment. I know only that my time has come. The Captain General steps forward, his expression grave. You understand what you are proposing. If you surrender your consciousness to the Emperor, nothing of Decimus Valen will remain. You will cease to exist as an individual. I understand, I acknowledge, feeling not fear but a profound sense of completion, of purpose fulfilled. It is what I was created for, the culmination of 10,000 years of service. And if you are wrong, he presses. If this is some deception planted by Ahriman, some corruption of your true purpose, I smile, a gesture so unfamiliar that it feels strange on my face. Then the Emperor will destroy me utterly, and nothing will change. But I am not wrong. I know it with a certainty that transcends doubt. The Captain General studies me for a long moment, perhaps seeing in my face the same conviction that I feel in my heart's. Then he nods, a gesture of acceptance if not agreement. So be it, he says. Complete your purpose, Shield Captain Decimus Valen, in the Emperor's name. In the Emperor's name, I echo, turning back to face the throne. I approach once more, this time not stopping at the base but ascending the steps that lead to the seat of the throne itself. No one tries to stop me. Perhaps they cannot, frozen in place by the Emperor's will. Perhaps they understand that what is happening now transcends protocol, transcends tradition, is in fact the fulfillment of plans laid before those protocols were even established. I stand before the Emperor, close enough to see the details of his withered form, the tubes and cables that sustain what remains of his physical existence. His eyes are closed, sunken into a face that is more skull than flesh. Yet I feel his awareness, his attention focused upon me with an intensity that would destroy a lesser mind. I return what was entrusted to me, I say, pressing the medallion against my chest, directly over my primary heart. I surrender my purpose to your will. The medallion flares with blinding golden light, burning through my armor as if it were parchment, sinking into my flesh, into my very being. Pain explodes through my body, not the clean agony of battle wounds, but something deeper, more fundamental, as if my very soul is being unmade. I do not resist, I welcome it. This moment, this pain, is what I was created for. The culmination of 10,000 years of vigil, of purpose, of duty fulfilled without question or hesitation. My consciousness expands, stretching beyond the confines of my physical form. I feel my memories, my identity, the essence of what makes me Decimus Valen separating from my body, drawn inexorably toward the psychic singularity that is the Emperor's mind. And as I am pulled apart, as I surrender what I am to He who made me, I experience a moment of perfect clarity. I see the Emperor's plan unfolding across millennia, a tapestry of such complexity and scale that no single mind could comprehend it in its entirety. I see the role I have played, one thread among countless others, yet vital to the pattern's completion. I see the future that might be, if all proceeds as He intended, a future where humanity transcends its current limitations, evolves into something greater, something capable of facing the darkness that lies between the stars. And I see myself, not as I was, but as I will be, not erased or consumed, but transformed, my consciousness incorporated into the Emperor's own, my memories and knowledge filling gaps torn by 10 millennia of ceaseless battle against the ruinous powers. Not an end, but a continuation, service given new form but unchanged in its essential nature. The last thing I hear, before individuality dissolves into unity, is the Emperor's voice. Not the thunderous proclamations of legend, nor the subtle psychic impressions reported by those rare individuals granted his attention in the millennia since his interment, but a voice as I remember it from before, when he still walked among humanity, spoke with them, led them toward their destiny with words as well as deeds. "Well done, Decimus," he says, and in those 3 words I hear approval, gratitude, and something I had never expected to receive from the master of mankind. Recognition, not of my service or my sacrifice, but of me, of the individual I have been for 10,000 years, the consciousness about to be absorbed into his own. Welcome home. And then I am no more, and I am everything. The being that once was Decimus Valen opens its eyes. Its body remains unchanged, a transhuman warrior in golden armor standing before the withered form of the Emperor. But the consciousness that animates that body is no longer solely its own. It is a fragment of something greater, a splinter of the Emperor's own mind, returned to physical form for a specific purpose. It turns to face the Captain General and the other custodians, who have watched in awe and trepidation as golden light enveloped both the shield captain and the Emperor's corpse-like form. When it speaks, its voice carries harmonics impossible for a human throat to produce, resonating with power that makes the very air vibrate in sympathy. The first key is turned. It announces, "The process begins." The Captain General kneels immediately, recognizing the presence that now looks out through the eyes of what was once Decimus Valen. The others follow suit, bowing their heads in reverence and submission. "What would you have us do, my Emperor?" the Captain General asks, his voice steady despite the unprecedented nature of the situation. "Prepare," the being replies. "The 8 must be found, the fragments gathered, the whole restored." It pauses, its head tilting slightly as if listening to voices only it can hear. Time grows short, the enemy moves, the final battle approaches. "The 8? Valerian questions cautiously. Shield Captain Valen spoke of 9 repositories, himself and 8 others. "Yes," the being confirms. 8 remain, scattered across the galaxy. hidden even from themselves. They must be found before the enemy locates them. They must be brought to Terra, to the throne. And when all are gathered, the tribune inquires, what then? The being's expression shifts, something like a smile, but too perfect, too symmetrical to be truly human. Then I return, not as I was, for that being is gone, sacrificed so that humanity might live, but as I must be, to lead my children through the darkness that is coming. It looks back at the withered form upon the throne, its gaze filled with emotions too complex, too contradictory for mortal minds to comprehend. Sorrow and joy, regret and acceptance, an end and a beginning, all intertwined into a singular purpose that transcends such limited concepts. The long vigil nears its end. It declares, the wheel turns, the circle closes, what was broken shall be made whole, what was lost shall be found. Again. And in its voice, in its words, those present hear not just the promise of the Emperor's return, but something more fundamental, more profound. The fulfillment of humanity's destiny, written in the stars 10,000 years ago by the hand of the Master of Mankind himself. A destiny that required the perfect sacrifice, the willing surrender of one who stood guard for 10 millennia, never knowing that he himself was the key, the first step on the path to humanity's salvation. Decimus Valon, shield captain of the Adeptus Custodes, guardian of the Emperor's vision, the first of 9, the beginning of the end, and the herald of a new beginning, his vigil is over. But his service continues, transformed yet eternal, as it was always meant to be. In the shadow of the golden throne, in the light of a future yet to dawn,